Mr. Hanna,
Mr. Evans.
do you have the details of the mission prepared before we start recording?
I do.
Okay, so how about you tell me what was James Bond's assignment before we start?
In this mission, Bond is informed that a well-known assassin named Francisco Saramanga may be coming after him, so Bond wants to be proactive instead of reactive. And so he goes after him and finds out that Saramanga has energy technology that he wants to sell, so he assassinates a solar scientist who created a device that traps solar energy and turns it into exponential energy so that his technology would be more valuable.
Okay, and this is called The Man with the Golden Gun. We are recording. I'm your host, Jeremy Evans, with my other agent, Travis Hanna. And this mission is called Man with the Golden Gun. So let's go ahead and get through this quite an interesting mission. A bit of a mess, by the way the paperwork looks. So, Travis, what do you go ahead and kind of give me a little beginning of this?
So it starts out on this really cool island, people sitting in moon chairs, and a little French waiter named Nack. When I say little, I mean like a little person.
Isn't he the same guy from like Fantasy Island? Is that the same?
D-Plane boss? D-Plane?
Yeah, is that the kid?
I don't know, but it very well could be.
Okay, go on.
Anyway, we find out that the man on the beach has 3 nipples, which will be important later.
3 nipples.
3 nipples.
'Kay.
3 nips.
You heard that. 3 nipples.
Tri-nip.
Tri-nip.
Tri-nip. And the little French guy or waiter, little French butler, welcomes in this like mob boss looking guy, like a 1920s looking mob boss. Like that's how he's dressed.
How did he come on the island? Did he come on a boat?
You know, honestly, I don't remember.
Okay. I got confused. Like, did he just show up? Because I think he did. Oh, yeah, I think it was a boat. I think it was. Go on. I'm sorry.
Anyway, Nack informs this guy to wait in this room, and the guy on the beach will be with him shortly. The guy on the beach is Saramanga, played by Chistopher Lee.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. He was Dracula. He was Van Helsing.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
Go on.
Dude has an awesome resume. Anyway, Saramanga has like this fun house that he uses to challenge himself. So Nack, Saramanga is the man with the golden gun, and the golden gun is hidden somewhere within the fun house. And the idea is this mob boss looking dude is trying to kill Saramanga. Saramanga has to get the golden gun to kill the mob boss guy before he dies or before he gets killed.
So can we say that, one, that is like a freaking beautiful house. Wherever that inside is really nice inside. It was really, really cool. I really like the way it looks. And then the fun house felt like, to me, like it was a clever idea at the time.
Right.
Like it looks both ways. Like one, it looks cool at the time, but going back, it doesn't look cool. But you kind of respect that it was a cool idea, but now going back on it, it's like, eh.
And when I say funhouse, I really mean like mirror rooms and
pop
dancing
out
skeletons and
cowboys, mafia. They pop out. They pop out at you like you're on a little cart ride,
right?
Going through stuff, and they just pop out of you. So
and there's a weird like theme in this movie where they try to get these people to look like wax figures. Like Saramanga has a wax quote unquote figure of Bond in his funhouse in like kind of an action pose. And later on in the movie, there's sumo wrestlers. The characters that pop out in the funhouse are actual actors pretending to be wax figures. So you can see them trying to stand still, but they're kind of shaky. It's It's really bizarre. It's a really bizarre thing to have throughout the movie.
It's interesting too because you can see that in this funhouse that his training kind of resembles a little bit from Grant from Rush with Love, how he's getting trained.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of similar, but not. But you can kind of see that that idea was influenced into it. So
Saramanga ends up getting the golden gun, killing this guy, and then shooting off the fingers of the wax Bond figure, and then it goes into the opening. And the opening was, it was okay.
You can tell because the music was felt like very half-assed, and then the song was felt like the song was going too fast of what the feel of the movie was supposed to be. I don't know why. I don't. Maybe that's just me, or it's just the song just didn't fit it at all. It should have been like more a deadly kind of mellow because it's supposed to be a one-on-one feel. It's supposed to be the best of the best versus the other best. And I felt like I didn't get that feel from it. That's just me, though.
Yeah, it was dancing female silhouettes with red fireworks in the background. It was dumb.
Which, it's weird that we say that because we go into Live or Let Die's intro, and it was basically just fire everywhere for women. But that felt a little bit more with that theme to me, what they were doing across.
Well, and that was in the 60s also.
That's
right?
true. 71.
71.
Yeah.
So I kind of expect...
Or 73, something like that.
Kind of expect a little bit more the next time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. We were...
Yeah,
I just felt like it was a little lazy on this one. Go on.
Yeah. So, after the intro, Bond is called to M's office, or at the headquarters, because M has received a golden bullet with 007 inscribed in it. And they believe that it's Francisco Scaramanga telling Bond that he's coming for him in an attempt to scare him. During this, they ask Bond if he knows anything about Scaramanga. And he goes into this crazy exposition that he was a circus performer or the child of a circus performer and a trick shot and really good, and somehow turned that into becoming an assassin.
Keep going. I'm looking at the paperwork. I think there is a little more information about him. Go on.
Okay. So Bond decides that even though they don't know what Scaramanga actually looks like, that this threat might be serious. Because
I found the paperwork. Okay, so Francisco was a British national born in a traveling circus. His father was a ringmaster, a former Cuban national, and his mother was a snake charmer. So by age 10, he was part of the circus as a trick shot pistol marksman, hence why he likes, like you saw at the beginning. Age 15, he became an international assassin for hire. He was recruited some years later by the KGB while living in Panama, in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Right.
Sorry.
Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, that's it. So sorry about that. And trained in the Eastern Europes, where for many years he was basically just another overworked and underpaid assassin for the KGB. He quit the KGB in the 1950s, becoming an independent hitman for hire. No photographs of him exist, but he had an unusual feature about him, the third nipple. And the information later comes in handy for Bond. So, anyways.
Yeah, so Bond gave all that information.
Off the top of his head?
Off the top of his
head. No files handed to him or anything like that. You knew all that. It's like...
So, it's an impressive resume, but it's a bit too much for the reader, or for the watcher.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Bond locates the bullet. Or there was another agent that was killed by Scaramanga, but the bullet was never recovered, so they weren't ever able to do any kind of analysis. Turns out that a belly dancer was with the agent that was killed, and she pulled it out of the body because it's gold.
Now, hang on. Before we go back, can we mention that that bullet, there was a specialty bullet delivered to Bond with his inscription number on it?
I said that.
You did? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Maybe that went. Maybe I threw past. I was too busy looking for the files. Go on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Belly dancer.
So the belly dancer has turned the golden bullet into a belly button. Not even really a piercing.
It's basically a decoration for your belly button for the belly dancers.
Yeah, it's a belly button decorate. Bond ends up pulling it out with his mouth, and then getting into a fight scene and swallowing it, which is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, because like that fight scene was a good 2-minute fight scene, and he managed to do all that without choking. I would have. I knew I couldn't fight if I had something, going down my throat and trying to because that bullet wasn't small to me. It looked like that would have caught in your neck and you started choking. But whatever. So after all that fighting, he managed to knock out everybody apparently, and then run out this door that I swear wasn't there before, but he managed to make it out, and he got into a car and head to the pharmacy. I guess for people that probably put it together, he went to go get some kind of laxative to get rid of it. So
right.
So he heads up to Mr. Q branch, and
so right he goes to Q's headquarters, and they start talking about the bullet and that it's some special size that has to be custom made, and there's only one guy who can do it. And while they're talking about this, in the background there's a bunch of scientists measuring from a camera, like measure the distance between a camera and this brick wall. And midway through their conversation, they hear a big boom. So the camera is actually like a cannon or a gun of some kind. Mm-hmm. And that's the only real cool gadget.
Why show something if we're not going to use it?
Yeah. I mean, something similar is going to come up later that I remember.
Okay.
Like there's a camera laser.
Okay.
Later on. So, okay. I mean, they at least have fun with it. And I guess Canon or Nikon or whatever camera it is, because there's one on the table while they're talking about the bullet, must have been a sponsor.
Right. It definitely stands out. Stands out.
It's like product placement, basically.
Right.
And anyway, so Bond tracks down the gunsmith and is talking with him in Hong Kong, I believe.
Yes.
And convinces him by pointing a gun at him and shooting that he should show him how he delivers the golden bullets to Saramanga. And essentially, they go to a casino.
Now, hang on. Before you even go further into that, can we talk about how easy it was for him to get the information? I mean, the weapon dealer should have kind of noticed that, halfway Bond was turning. Okay, so basically what happened was Bond got to test out a gun, and the dealer was trying to show him, all how good he is with guns, making bullets, and then that's when he mentioned about Francisco, and he said, I can't give you that information. Everything is private. I can't give you that information. So during this whole conversation, Bond decides to turn the gun sideways for a second, and he asks him again, hey, are you sure you don't want to give me that information? And he says no, and then he turns the gun with him. Like I promise you that I swear this is not a joke. The guy apparently did not put 2 and 2 together as he straight aimed, at his crotch per se. And
well, the other funny thing about this is this gunsmith has a shooting range, and this gun is made for a guy with 3 fingers. And Bond at the end of the range is like an inch low when he shoots the gun, because it's not made for his hand. Basically, is what the explanation is. When he this gun is also like on a pivoting stand.
Think of it as like if you were at you're shooting one of those carnivals. You're shooting a water gun. It's like one of those kind of stands. Yeah.
And this guy is way closer than the target, so he shoots the gun at him and is like, "Oh yeah, look at that, an inch short." But in reality, being that close, it doesn't matter. He should have shot him.
Like at least in the leg.
Right. Anyway, like trying to trick him or not, like he is pointing the gun at him and pulls the trigger, and he's not far away enough for it to be an inch low. Anyway.
Okay. That was important to me, because I was like, that was weird. Okay, go on.
So there's an exchange made at a casino. The bullets are put in what looks like a cigarette case, and a basket is dropped down. And I'm not real clear what they're gambling for something, and I'm not sure how it works. But some like these baskets keep dropping up and down, and people are putting cash in.
Okay, hear me out.
Cash out.
Hear me out. I could be 100% wrong here. Do you think it is where you have people betting at the table, and then the people above are betting how much that particular person might be winning by, or something like that? You think someone's betting on an individual person how he does on the table? Because
I have
or
no
unless
idea.
unless that table is so maybe, or it could be that table is so not so big and there's too many people that they have people above also betting on that table too.
I really have no idea.
Okay, so if you ever watch it, kind of give us an idea what you think. But it's either one or those two choices. Maybe that table isn't big enough and people are just betting upstairs too. Go on.
So a woman takes the golden bullets, and Bond decides to follow her.
Do we get a name? What's her name yet?
Her name is Miss Anders.
Okay, all right, go on.
So Bond ends up on a like not a cruise ship, but one of those like harbor tour type boats,
Which looks pretty cool.
right? And he's following Miss Anders, and she doesn't realize it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to.
By the way, she is the same woman that was on the beach at the very beginning, right?
Correct.
Okay, go on.
Correct. And while they're on the boat, there's a ship that was scuttled. I think they're okay. So this movie takes place in 1974,
Mm-hmm.
and the ship was scuttled in 1972, and it's kind of like a landmark now. And they're passing it on their way to their destination in Macau, in Hong Kong. And they get off the boat, and Bond's about to get into a car to follow Miss Anders, and a blonde shows up who is an acquaintance of Bond, and her name is Goodnight. And she is essentially the Bond chick for the movie, but she's also like a young agent. So she really wants to sleep with James, but things keep happening to where she doesn't get that opportunity.
So basically, like, I feel like that she doesn't want to do her job. It felt like she just wants the job so she can just get the opportunity with Bond more than like, what is
Right.
my mission?
Right.
So, yep. And you can even tell that, Bond is kind of irritated by her,
Right.
at some points. So after she blocks her traffic, I guess they head to the hotel.
Well, yeah, they head to this hotel called the Peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
And Bond sneaks into Anders' room, and she's in the shower. And so he confronts her in the shower, and it turns out she showers with a gun.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I guess I don't know. Like, does she get attracted that much to be that well protected? Like, there's not a backstory about it. It looks like no one should know who Francisco is. So why would she be even afraid to even have a gun? I don't know.
Maybe because Scaramanga may. I don't know. That's good. Nobody knows what Scaramanga looks like.
Okay.
So anyway, Bond tricks one of the hotel staff to let him in. He gets the gun away from Miss Anders and questions her with a backhand and an arm twist. And she reveals that she meets up with Scaramanga in person to give him the bullets, basically.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because it says that she said she basically was confessed, but she said, I don't want to get my arm twisted again. And I'm like, I don't know what's worse for you, that slap or that arm twist, because that slap was pretty lethal.
It was a pretty epic slap.
Yeah, not once but twice. And then he gets drinks.
Yeah. Starts pouring champagne that he had,
because if I'm correct, they made he told her that I need you to work with me at the same time work with him.
Right, be a double agent.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we also, I think this is the part where we find out that she sent the bullet.
Yes, but that's way later.
Is it way okay?
Yeah. That's before the part. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, Bond leaves, and there's this total
he's supposed to meet up with somebody, I believe, right?
Yeah, but there's this really great scene where there's a bar and a half-naked Asian chick, and this is where we actually meet another agent.
So let's talk about the bar for a second of this area. So you can tell this is 70s, so the bar feels like more of a 70s feels, but there's a bunch of tables. But it's kind of like I don't know, it's like a round table, but like it's very like nice and cushioned, but you have these waitress ladies on top of each table section, but they're totally naked.
Right. Well, yeah, right. They're topless and just wearing underwear, like panties.
Oh yeah, just panties, and they're just basically helping serving drinks, but they don't move. They just sit in this whole.
Right. It's like a padded circle.
Right.
In the middle, and then the outside is the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And people, you come in, you sit at the bar, and she just kind of scoots around and serves you whatever you want.
Yeah.
Sake probably.
Which
or sake? It's Hong Kong, so it's China.
Which
so
Asian Travis would that be a place that you would like to go? Would that interest you?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
All right, go on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I agree.
So
to
we're introduced to another character here, named Chumi.
Mm-hmm.
Chumi is an agent that's also on the lookout for Saramanga. He's basically support for Bond.
Mm-hmm.
While Bond is waiting on Saramanga to arrive,
oh yeah, the place is called Bottoms Up. Yeah, I forgot about the place. Yeah,
Bottoms Up. That's hilarious.
That's an awesome name, actually.
There's a couple of guys in the street, and Saramanga shoots, and it looks like he's shooting at Bond.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, he kills another guy on the street who is a solar scientist that Bond was actually supposed to be. Bond was on a mission in the beginning to find this guy because no one could find him.
Mm-hmm.
Saramanga kills him and steals his Solex, which is a device that converts solar energy into incomprehensible energy.
Perfect headshot, by the way.
Right?
Yeah, very, very good headshot.
One shot, one kill.
Mm-hmm.
So Chumi at this point doesn't know who Bond is. But the ship that they passed earlier while they were on the boat.
Yeah, because if I'm correct, a bunch of police were coming up to Bond because they believed that the guy that Saramanga shot. By the way, this was like outside the Bottoms Up, and cops were coming by and they were going to arrest him, but then what's his name, Chumi managed to get him out of there, and then they take a boat trip where they head to the sunken ship that we saw earlier.
Right, and well, it's not really sunken; it's just kind of scuttled and knocked over.
Oh yeah, that's
and it turns out that the MI6 has a hideout inside of that ship. And it's very difficult to look at because everything is sideways.
So that's just not
They've added platforms for everything to be level. So they like walk upstairs because the ship is on its side, and they've cut out floors. It's really hard to explain. You have to watch the movie to see it.
It's basically like if you walk into a house that half the house is sunk in.
Right. It's another Funhouse theme.
Yeah. It's supposed to be kind of like bizarre. I think that's what they're trying to go with, like a bizarre kind of thing. Like this actually happens. So, because like apparently the ship is like in that borderline between U.S. territory and China, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, and so after they got the briefing from M, and Q was there and another agent there, I believe they were talking about where they needed to go next.
Right. So there's a guy named High Fat, who is like a kingpin, and they believe he's working with Saramanga. So Chumi and Bond go to his estate, and Bond hops the wall and purposely gets captured so that he can try and meet High Fat. So High Fat shows up, and Bond unbuttons his shirt because he was acting like he was going to get in a pool, and he has a fake third nipple. So he's pretending to be Saramanga to meet High Fat. And High Fat apologizes for being rude and sets up dinner plans for later that evening. And Bond thinks that he got one over on him, but you find out that Saramanga is already there, and that it's basically going to be a trap.
Right. And so when after he arrives there in his nice white tuxedo suit,
Right, because Saramanga was notorious for wearing white pants, white shirt.
So when he arrives there, he gets introduced by three things. So
there's two sumo wrestlers, which are supposed to be like the quote unquote wax figures, and they start fighting Bond, and Bond, of course, beats the two sumo wrestlers.
And who was that third person, Travis? The little guy,
Nack.
Nack hits him on top of the head
and captures him.
And then he ends up waking up in a dojo.
Right. High Fat tells him to take Bond to school. And
because he didn't learn his lesson. Moving on.
So Bond is like waking up, and there's two chicks, kind of like one's massaging his chest and the other one's like patting his head with a damp cloth. And this door opens up, and he realizes that he's at like a dojo. And like he's wearing a gi, and there's a bunch of other guys in gis, and there's a sword fight demonstration where these two guys fight to the death. And then they tell Bond
shit got real. They
tell Bond that he has to fight one of the guys. And
by the way, they did all this without Spakes talking. There was no spoken words in this. They just kind of like, this guy basically he chose one of them, and he kind of did like a routine, and then he just stared there and looked at Bond, and Bond was like, I guess I'm gonna fight. All right.
So when they bow to show respect to each other, Bond kicks this dude in the face.
That's like one of the best parts.
So one of the because it's a, and then like a more skilled student like has a hand-to-hand fight with Bond, and Bond tries to escape, and then Chu-Mi shows up with two schoolgirls.
That was awesome.
And it's kind of confusing because Bond went to school, so Chu-Mi felt like he had to bring schoolgirls who are also like experts in karate, because they beat up a bunch of guys, and then Bond escapes on a boat. And
we are back at the boat scenes that you saw. So
and there's a happy coincidence with these boat scenes.
So can I take over this one?
Go ahead.
So after the fight scenes with the girls, Chu-Mi and the girls escape, but Chu-Mi didn't realize that Bond was not in the car and just left Bond there, apparently. As you know, the girls are yelling and say, "Hey, you left Bond! You left Bond!" That's basically what I got. That's basically what to look up. So Bond end up, stranded and running down to near the river, where there are speedboats. So before you get hyped up, no, there's not a 15-minute speedboat chase again.
No, but there is a sheriff.
Yes, and as he was escaping, after he got his trying to get the motor working, and he finally got it working and everything like that. A certain character came up, Mr. Sergeant Pepper. You remember him from our last discussion, the mission Live or Let Die. And from there, we thought maybe that was the last of him, but it was not, because he shows up a little bit later, as we see in the papers. But after all this, Sergeant Pepper was at a distance, kind of observing the whole fiasco that was happening. And Bond managed to escape by tearing the boat that the people were chasing him in, tear that apart, and then he quietly moved on. But during that, Sergeant Pepper, I'm sorry, Travis, you feel like you wanted to put something there.
Yeah, there's this kid trying to sell like this wooden elephant, and he's like jumping from boat to boat, and he starts out at like $100 and then quickly goes down to like $80, then $60. Well, he sees Bond, and his engine is struggling on his boat. So Bond is like, "Kid, I'll give you $20,000 if you can make this boat go faster." And for some reason, along the side of the boat is like a fuel line, and the kid just opens the fuel line up all the way, and the boat goes like the engine starts working much better, and the kid's like, you owe me $20,000, and Bond just like pushes him out of the boat.
So just to recap, in the river, Bond got in the boat, escaping from these group of bad guys. The bad guys got in the boat, started chasing them down. This kid, he runs into this kid that's selling an elephant. He was offered $20,000 to fix the boat. The kid helped out. Bond didn't pay. He pushed him off. Then he goes on. Then Sergeant Pepper shows up, and he's laughing at the whole situation because, it's basically he's fish out of water. He doesn't understand the culture, so he's trying to be this funny comedian part. Like, it's another thing where this movie feels like, oh, crap, we forgot to put comedy in there. Let's throw a comedy in there. And so from there, Sergeant Pepper ends up watching the whole fiasco. Bond ends up escaping by tearing up the other boat in half by speeding right through it. And then at that time, Sergeant Pepper was laughing his head off, talking about these guys don't know how to ride boats, while getting robbed or getting handled by an elephant.
Yes. And he makes the comment that he's a Democrat because his wife wants to buy one of the wooden elephants. And
which has nothing to do with anything.
He's like, oh, but we're Democrats. It's poor humor.
Right.
Poor humor.
Right. So, moving on.
Anyway, so High Fat is meeting with Saramanga, and High Fat gives Saramanga the Solex.
That is correct.
And in return, Saramanga kills High Fat and takes the Solex back to his hideout.
Right. And, of course, don't forget that he says now he is the new chairman of the facility.
Right.
And he said just throw his body somewhere, which is weird because it's like, I guess, like, I don't know, I guess the guards would do that, but at the same time, it's like, don't you work with him? So wouldn't you be concerned that he killed your boss? No.
Also, we find out that the golden gun is a lighter, a cigarette case, and a fountain pen.
Yes, because during that time, while what's his name? I'm sorry.
High
Fat was explaining him how worthless he is. Francisco decides to put all this together while he's talking and then shoot him right in the chest. And that's basically it. So, yeah, what he just mentioned, all that is with that guns, which is, to me, that's pretty cool. And so after that, well, actually, you know what? Let's take a break, and then we come back. Let's continue on with this mission.
Okay.
Hey, listeners. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Jeremy Evans, a.k.a. your in-game boss, and I want to let you know that this is not the only show you can listen to. We got great shows like the In-Game Boss Podcast, the Gaming Halls of Rivalries, Bond Never Dies, and Area 44, and more to come. So if you enjoyed this show, make sure you follow and subscribe to the network so you're always updated with the newest episodes and update on any other news that happens in the In-Game Boss program. So, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the show. Hi. If you love video games and you love video game icons or characters, then please walk down the gaming halls of rivalries with us as we go through two iconic characters that rival each other in the gaming industry. Gaming characters like Mario and Sonic,
or Lara Croft and Nathan Drake,
or like Dante and Bayonetta,
and Master Chief and Samus.
If you enjoy these characters, then please visit the Gaming Halls of Rivalries as part of the In-Game Boss program and enjoy fun information and fun stories and the future of these characters. Thank you. And welcome back to the mission. I'm your host, Jeremy Evans, with Travis Hanna. And we left you with...
Poing.
Yeah, that's what we left you with. No, what we left you with is Mr. High Fat got killed by Francisco.
Correct.
Yeah. So later in this mission, Bond is having drinks with Goodnight at this nice little fancy restaurant, and this is the time where Goodnight is going to have a good night with
Right.
Mr. Bond. She finally getting it. She's doing it. She's like, out of all the Bond girls, she's the
Right.
one like, I'm going to get my Bond. I'm going to Bond it this time.
They're sharing. It looks like they're sharing a hotel room. Bond goes upstairs, and Goodnight is wearing like a nightie. Like things like it's gonna happen.
You notice too that like since this mission, Bond has not really like checked rooms at all. Like I guess because he only has to expect one person going after him. He doesn't have to really check the room for anything bad.
Right, because he's not really staying anywhere. Like he meets Goodnight, and she's already in the room first.
Like this is the longest scene I think for him in a room
Yeah.
through the whole time. Anyways, so
anyway, Anders shows up. Like she tries to break into the hotel. Well, she breaks in, and they're waiting for her.
because for some reason too, by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt, that Goodnight is wearing the exact same color dress that matches the drapes, the bed, the pillows, the lamp,
man.
the wall.
She was ready.
Yeah, I know. She got the thing going.
She had been planning for months.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
So Goodnight gets into bed. Her and Bond are making out, and they hear someone trying to break in.
Mm-hmm.
They find out it's Miss Anders, and so Bond like covers up Goodnight so Miss Anders can't see her,
Mm-hmm.
and then like proceeds to say that he sleeps with lots of pillows. Like you wouldn't be able to tell that there's a human being underneath the comforter.
I feel like she had that face like,
Uh-huh.
okay. Like not like your suspicious look. It's like, okay, that has nothing to do with me, but move on.
Right. So at some point Goodnight gets put in the closet, and Bond and Anders shack up.
And this is the part where Anders mentions that I send you the bullet.
Right. Because she wants Bond to kill Scaramanga.
Yeah, I want you to rescue me. So
Because she's basically being held captive.
Mhm.
Like she's a hostage
yeah.
to Scaramanga.
So Goodnight didn't have really a good night because she got shoved in the closet while Bond ended up bonding it with Miss Anders.
for 2 hours.
Yeah, and then she gets. Oh, go ahead.
Like Goodnight fell asleep in the closet.
Yeah.
And Bond wakes her up and is like, she's like, what time is it? He's like, 2. I was in there for 2 hours.
I was like, look, time didn't get wasted. I promise you that. So after Bond bonded, Miss Anders ends up going back to Mr. Scaramanga that was in bed that sends her, and she was basically she walked in, she was opening up the safe to put our stuff in.
Her jewelry.
Yeah, but she ended up trying to take something too at the same time.
She stole the Solex.
Mhm.
And the whole thing was Goodnight was upset that Anders slept with him and she didn't. But but Bond explains that he thinks that he convinced Anders to bring him the Solex.
Mhm.
And so they're at like this kickboxing match, and Anders is there waiting for him. And so Bond goes and sits next to her. And we notice a little bullet hole inside of Anders' head.
Mm-hmm.
And so Scaramanga sits right next to Bond and introduces himself and reveals that he's the one who killed Anders because he knows that she stole the Solex.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't able to locate it. So while they're talking, Bond looks down and sees, I don't know how he knows it's the Solex because he's not seen it, but on the floor is the Solex.
Mm-hmm.
Chu-Mi,
That is a good question. How did he know exactly what that looked like?
right? Chu-Mi and Goodnight are also there as support. So Chu-Mi is walking around with peanuts, and Bond ends up picking up the Solex without Scaramanga seeing it.
Because he tried to grab the peanuts and he pretended he's like, oops, I dropped it.
Right.
Yeah.
And he gives the Solex to Chu-Mi, who gives it to Goodnight. Goodnight, while they're waiting on Bond and Chu-Mi to get out of there, sees Nack and recognizes him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where from. And
No, not where from. I think it was in the walkie-talkie talk because she was stunned like a midget. And then she put two together.
Oh, right,
yeah.
right. They
yeah,
explain.
Yeah, and she
Okay.
was kind of dumbfounded by it. And then she saw him walk by. It's like, oh, that's the midget they were
Right.
talking about.
So
Yeah.
while Nack is trying to leave in his car, she opens the trunk to put in a tracking device,
Mm-hmm.
and Scaramanga pushes her into the trunk, and they essentially kidnap her. And so Bond, Bond sees an AMC car dealership in Bangkok, and AMC is American Motor Corporation, which went out of business, I think, in the mid '80s. But Sergeant Pepper is looking apparently to buy a car in Bangkok and have it shipped back to Louisiana.
So wait a minute. The car you described is what Francisco's driving, or is that the car Bond's about to steal?
So Francisco is driving an AMC.
Okay.
I don't know what kind.
Okay.
But
Now for the people that are listening to this, by the way, the reason why Bond ends up stealing a car because the car that him and Chumi were about to take off didn't go well because Goodnight had the keys.
Right, it's a Mercedes Benz.
Yeah, and she had the keys. Yeah, so he ended up stealing a car
from like a dealership.
Yeah, and by coincidence, Sergeant Pepper has to be the car that Travis mentioned that he wants to take home.
Which is why I'm like, he was looking to buy a car in Bangkok. Anyway, Bond and Sergeant Pepper are on the police chase.
Which, by the way, this makes no sense of reason why he had to be included in this chase. There was no reason for him to exist at all. None of it did anything to progress the story. He didn't know anything. It was supposed to be just a funny comedy moment, but it fell miserably.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, there's even a scene because, like,
oh god, I already know where you're going.
It's very Dukes of Hazzard-y.
Oh god, yeah.
And they hit this ramp and do this jump,
and it made the noise, Travis.
The slide whistle.
Yep. And that right there was Yep. And right there was like, well, I know where this movie's going.
So they end up cornering Saramanga in like this barn, and all these police are like following them. And Sergeant Pepper decides that because he's a cop, he's gonna go talk to the Bangkok police, and they try to arrest him. And while that's happening, something is connecting up to Scaramanga's car, and then all of a sudden he comes out with a car that has been converted into an airplane. So essentially, there's a big wing with an engine in the middle that attaches to the top of his car, and he then like speeds off very fast, and it's one of the best scenes when the car like takes off. It's like it's like clearly a model airplane, like
the way, like, you know how planes are, like when they fly, you see it slowly lifting off very slow. This plane just goes whoop right in the air.
Almost like a drone, just like jerky.
Right?
It's pretty comical.
Yeah, okay, so question. Can that actually fly? Because I don't believe that at all. Could that possibly, not the way they did it, but is it possible to drive that fast and have a plane do that you can just fly?
There is a car. It was a hatchback. I don't know what it was called, but the idea was you would back up into this fixed wing, and it would cover the back part of your car, and you would attach it down, and to my knowledge, they were able to get it to fly, but I've never seen like video or anything like that.
Was it around this time?
It very well could have been. It could have been later 80s.
Okay.
It was just one of those what if kind of things when I was a kid. Now, the funny part about all this is Goodnight is in the trunk of Scaramanga's car. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they take off, and she has no idea that they're in the air or that they took off. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how
she not feel that pressure.
Right. So she like pops the trunk and is like radioing to James, thinking that they stopped.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she ends up like realizing they're in the air, and she drops her walkie-talkie.
Mm-hmm. Which I disagree with that situation, because even though you dropped your walkie-talkie, you should have flew automatically off that thing.
Right.
Like, it should be no walkie-talkie only. You should have flew out the moment that it happened. And so after all that, this next thing is like one of my favorite parts, because the fact that M is dumbfounded. I think everybody in that room was dumbfounded except for Q about this scene that just happened, because I think as us reading this, we're kind of dumbfounded that this actually happened. That M is kind of shocked that like there's a flying car. Like a flying car just happened. Are you serious? And then Q is going around like, well, we have the technology. He's like, shut up, Q. Just shut up. I don't even want to hear this right now. Because the fact that it exists, there should be no flying cars.
Right.
And then Q mentions something else again, and then he's like, shut up. Like that's the most angry I've seen M, because he's just like, we got outplayed by a flying car.
Yeah. Right.
Like, what are you doing over there?
Right. And they're also telling him that they had the Solex, but they gave it to Goodnight, and Goodnight got herself kidnapped.
Right. And M was like even more pissed.
So, they figure out where Scaramanga's island is, and Bond takes a plane to go and find it. And Bond ends up landing on the island, and he's greeted by Nack, who's holding a bottle of Dom Perignon. And Scaramanga shoots the cork out of the champagne bottle, and then like
wasn't with the golden gun, guys.
Right, it was like with a revolver, and is like, "Oh, I couldn't resist scaring the crap out of you," and shooting at my butler, and so
he came up short. Ba-doom-doom. Okay, go on.
So Scaramanga is walking James around his island home,
Because that's what villains do. It's
And
basically showing, how big my piece is.
right, and is showing him his super secret power plant.
Yeah, basically how he got the place kind of electricity going up and everything. It's kind of like a solar panel kind of energy, solar power energy.
It uses like liquid nitrogen and things like that.
Yeah.
Scaramanga admits that it's beyond his realm of understanding. Bond like says a bunch of scientific jargon that might as well be like Donatello and Ninja Turtles. And Scaramanga's like,
Yeah.
all right, if that's what you think, I'm gonna agree with you because I don't know.
Oh no, I got money.
Right, right, basically. And this is where Bond figures out that Scaramanga wanted the Solex so that he could sell his technology before the Solex hit the market, because the Solex is essentially free energy. And there's a guy working, a single guy working in this power plant.
This is security, by the way.
He doesn't talk.
No, he's that
Doesn't
guy.
say anything. And I think it's because there's a rule with actors that if an actor gets a speaking role, they are then eligible to become part of the Screen Actors Guild and have to get paid a certain amount and all this stuff. So I think this poor dude probably got paid like $100, hopefully more, to just kind of stand around in the background. And then, like, he has somewhat of a bigger role later.
Still
doesn't talk.
No.
And it's like, what? It's just weird. So
I didn't know that. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So, Goodnight is, like, in a bikini because fan service.
Yeah, and then also Francisco is more like, look, if I capture you, I'm not going to hold you captive. You can do whatever you want. I mean, it's an island. Where are you going to go?
Right.
So, enjoy. Have fun.
Right. He's like, so Goodnight's basically just been enjoying herself on the beach. And
Scaramanga.
Well, before all this, Scaramanga kind of shows him what he did with the Solex.
Yeah.
And basically, he has it hooked up to where it will power his island. He's got like a mirror.
Oh yes, this is the best. This is the best part. This is how awesome he is. Come on,
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry. This is like the best. This is the awesome
He's got
part.
like this mirror that pops up and reflects the sunlight into this hole, or this rectangular cutout that powers the Solex and gives his island power. And he also decides that, well, that's some cool power. I should make a laser. So he makes this giant laser, and the only opening that this laser is pointing out of faces like a rock, like a cliff, like a rock face, where Bond happened to land his plane. And so the whole point of this scene is for this laser to blow up Bond's plane so he can't escape the island. And that's the last time we see the laser in action.
That's it. And that's just so freaking funny. It's just the fact that he has the money and he has this commit, like, I'm going to kill you, Bond. You came to me to go save her, but I wanted you here in the first place. I just wanted this. I love that because he gets the laser and he's like, guess what else he can do? And he's excited. His face is super excited when he blows the plane. He's like, you ain't going nowhere now.
And it's not even facing anywhere that it would be a danger to anybody.
No.
It's just it's so dumb.
No, it's dumb, but it's awesome at the same time.
Dumb.
It's hilarious because that's how I love villains that are committed like that. Like, I want you so bad that I will build a device just to make sure to make your life worse. That's it. No reason, just to do it.
Right. Now, Saramanga does point out that he does have a crap ton of money because each assassination costs $1 million.
That boy's getting some
and he's
hitman dough.
Right, and
he's
dough. Killed at least 3 people in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
2 of which were actual hits. So he has at least $2 million. I guess he could afford to move the laser. But
who knows? He could have more lasers somewhere. Maybe this is just the laser at this spot. We don't know. All we know is that he got the money. Bond has nowhere to go now. What are you going to do, Bond? Well, would you like to eat?
Right. So as he's showing him the laser, Nack, like over an intercom, is like ringing a bell to let them know that it's dinner time. And so Bond.
And what is that familiar to? Dr. No. Same thing.
Yeah.
Eating dinner again.
So Bond, Goodnight, and Saramanga are eating dinner, and Saramanga tells him that he challenges him to a duel. And Bond says he accepts, but he wants to eat first.
What a true gentleman.
And then it cuts to them on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And they're back to back, and Nack gives the rules. They take 20 paces, and when Bond turns around, Saramanga's gone.
He must have ran the moment it was like 1. He just jetted
and didn't make any noise in the sand.
No. By the way, I don't know. Was he even wearing shoes on the beach? I don't even know because they never showed it, so I don't know. But yeah, he was moving silence, man. And so, this part could have been. We'll talk more about our aftermath about all this, but so Bond ended up going on a search to look for him, which the search didn't last long because Nack kind of told him he's over there. But by the way, if you kill him, I get all his stuff. So I'm like, go in there and kill him.
The hideout, boss.
Yeah.
Or the fun house, boss. The fun house.
Right. So Bond ends up going into.
So Bond goes into the fun house and manages to stay off camera. Nack has a bunch of cameras all over the place, so he can monitor what's happening inside of the fun house. Mm-hmm. And he can't find Bond on the cameras because Bond is walking around in the rafters, and
somehow he managed to find a clear wall and then got behind it and end up going under that particular part of the funhouse somehow.
Yeah. Anyway, so while all this is happening, the silent scientist hitman or bodyguard is keeping an eye on Goodnight, who pushes him into one of the frozen reactors or generators or whatever it is that powers. It's like a liquid nitrogen. It's like below freezing.
Mm-hmm. But he got liquefied.
And so, he turns into an icicle and somehow raises the temperature of the generator, which is slowly causing it to overheat.
Mm-hmm. And then meanwhile, while that's happening, Bond is still going after Francisco on this one-on-one match. And somehow Francisco couldn't find him, and then he walks into this center area where his golden gun was located at the very beginning when he first duoed.
Right, where the wax figure of Bond was.
And then magically, that happens to be Bond, not the wax figure, which I question that. How the hell did he do that? He did not have that much time. There's no way he had that much time.
Bond stole the clothes that were on the wax figure, moved the wax figure, took its spot, just so he could trick Saramanga and shoot him.
And we're explaining this, but none of this happened. We're just saying that's what happened.
Right, because he's wearing one suit, and then all of a sudden he's in a black tuxedo. And
Right.
then in the next scene, he's back in his old
Right,
suit.
because before that, he even dropped his gun. He dropped his gun down this gutter. It's gone. He's
Right.
he's still trying to get out of the situation he's at. Managed to do all that. By the way, I guess the wax figure had a real gun, apparently, not a fake gun, apparently. And so he managed to shoot him in this nice suit, which none of that made any sense. So that was like the worst climax of a shootout I ever seen. That was a terrible fight. But anyways, so he meets up with Goodnight, and they manage to get off the island. But wait, there's more. So
they Saramanga had a junk, which is a Chinese boat.
and by the way, that was the boat that he had most of this movie. We didn't mention it because it's not really important, but that's the way he got around a lot of this.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Nack stows away on the boat, and right as Bond and Goodnight are about to bond,
Bonded.
Nack shows up and starts there's a bunch of little, I guess, hidden doors throughout the ship because it's like a Scooby-Doo chase scene where he rolls under a bed.
Oh my god!
And then
Right?
he comes out of a corner.
It's like chasing your cat.
Right. It's ridiculous. So Bond ends up capturing him inside of a giant suitcase, and then leaves the room for a second and comes back, and Goodnight's like, "Oh, Bond, you didn't," and he's like, "Of course I did," and they're bonding it, and then it cuts to the outside of the boat, and Nack is inside of a cage, like a wooden cage or something, on the top side of the boat, and M calls.
That's the part. No, stop. That's the part. I've
Yeah.
been waiting for this part for the whole time. This part here ruins this mission for me right now. How the hell is there a phone that connects to MI6 on that boat? They never mentioned that was stolen. They didn't mention that he used to be part of them. There was a phone there. That raises so many questions. Like, why is there a phone that connects to MI6? Why is there one on a boat like that? That is Saramanga's boat. There is no connection.
Right.
That makes no sense.
And it's a landline. It's not even like a cool technology phone.
There is some theory behind that. That makes no sense, Travis. It makes no sense how they have an MI6 phone at that thing. Someone's in talk. Someone's portraying.
Well, I think the funniest thing is the innuendo, because he's making out with Goodnight, and M asks for Goodnight, and he's like, hold on, she's coming.
Yeah.
And they keep the phone off the hook, and you can hear her kind of moaning a little bit in the
I
background.
don't know why M decided to hold on to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
very funny.
And then Bond picks it up, says something, and hangs up the phone. It's just what?
I know that was supposed to be funny, but I'm still dumbfounded that scene did actually happen. That there's a phone in Francisco's boat.
Yeah.
What is going on? That part just ruins the whole thing for me.
He's a millionaire.
He can afford an MI6 phone.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh my god, that ruined. Okay, so
So-
basically that's the end of the mission. So the question is, did Bond really succeed his mission? No, he did not success his mission because Francisco basically gave it to him.
Well, he did quote unquote outsmart him because for some reason he had a wax figure of him, and if you didn't kind of figure out by the time Bond was on the island what was going to happen, then you haven't been paying attention, because as soon as he went into the funhouse, I was just like, oh, so he's going to pretend to be that wax figure and kill Saramanga.
Yeah, but still, to me, mission wise, it was more of Francisco kind of set himself up to fall.
Yeah, I mean it's not a very good
But hang on.
Okay.
Before we get into that, but just overall, mission wise, okay, let me roll it back. He did succeed his mission, but it was a bit of a cakewalk to me, because finding him was so easier than it should have been, and I feel like that it wasn't that whole who can outsmart who to me until the very end per se, but it was predictable.
Yeah, it was. They had a really good villain and didn't do much with him,
Yeah, that goes into my next thing. Like, how do we feel
Okay.
about the movie overall?
And like, I'm really not liking Roger Moore. I think he's too posh. He's not enough action.
Or they're just not giving him enough action.
And one of my friends pointed out that there hasn't been a Bond that does action and kind of the posh thing in an even way. Either one is too action or one is too posh.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really not digging the Roger Moore stuff right now.
I feel like Man with a Golden Gun had a lot of potential. It everything they had sound great on paper. It just didn't execute right. I think Francisco was an awesome villain that they didn't utilize correctly. He could have been the Goldfinger of the Roger Moore series. This movie could have been. They could have made him more villainous. Like, for instance, all those wax he had. It would have been so cool. Everybody he killed ended up being a wax model in his thing. How awesome would that been? So he's walking in the front. He finds Anders as a wax with the bullet hole in her head, just sitting there. How freaky would that be? And the fact that also that there was just too much little gimmick stuff that just got annoying. The flying car to me was kind of unnecessary. I felt like that there was a lot of boring parts in this movie. I feel like the Bond girls were being utilized at the last minute more than anything. Like, Goodnight didn't really do anything, and they felt like that they forgot about her. Like, okay, we need to give her something to do.
She was essentially Honey Rider.
Right. But to me, maybe on the same par. Like,
Right. I mean, like, she didn't do anything. She just ran around in a bikini.
right, she was supposed to be that dumb, goofy comedy girl, but one, she didn't get enough face time to invest in her, regardless the situation is. And then Anders didn't really get that time to really shoot out how bad Francisco is. They didn't really get a moment together. Like, yeah, they slept, but they never got a golden moment together where they can really, really find out what is Francisco's main goal is, like, really, really more commit to what their relationship was supposed to be. It just felt like it was half-assed. But the worst part of it all was just the one-on-one through this whole movie was just ruined by too much comedy that was useless, unnecessary scenes, unnecessary moments. It should have been just straight to the point of these two trying to outsmart each other and have this epic gunfight on this island where they search for each other or something, not lead to this fun house thing. That fun house that just got taken too quick. Like, Nick Nack just basically took him over there instead of him trying to figure it out how to get there. It would have been rewarding to see Bond put two and together. Like, he could be in this house instead of come with me. Here, look, he's in here, so you don't have to search around the island.
Who challenges someone to a duel and then runs away to hide in the funhouse?
True.
Like Scar. Like, I don't know.
True. So let's go into basically what we think of Francisco. Was Francisco a good villain? He was a good villain, but they didn't utilize him. He was good on paper, but didn't get utilized in the film.
He was too hype.
Yes. And basically they made him too hidden to really do anything. Yes, he shot some people, but it would have been cool halfway in the movie we got to see him duel it out for a second, and then we get another great duel at the very end. Like, just kind of show them like who's show that Francisco's better at a gun than Bond at the beginning, and then Bond realized, like, okay, he's really good, I got to keep on my toes. Then hit that finale at the end of me where they basically really duel it out. That to me would have been a great triumph in my opinion.
Right? Like they could have totally like shot at each other and dodged or something, like rolled away and then ran out of bullets, like had like single shot pistols or something.
Right.
Because there's a company called Thompson, and they make target pistols that only have one bullet. Like they break open like a shotgun, you put a bullet in and you close it up, and essentially you get one shot. If there was something like they had those kinds of guns and they both missed, and then he ran off to the funhouse and Bond like would have chased him or something.
Yeah.
That would have made more sense than Bond walking in one direction, when he turns around he's gone.
Yeah.
And
because
Nick
a lot
Nack
of
being
it
like, oh yeah, he's in that door over there.
Because a lot of that got wasted of the tour of the island. Like, I understand what they were trying to do, but it was too long. Francisco was really trying to show him, like, welcome to my island, like Fantasy Island, and just kind of show him the ropes of, like, here it is. okay, now I want to duel you. And it's like more of like, it would have been cooler if Bond got to search around the place looking for him and we got a tour of his place while he's doing it. That would have been probably pretty cool. But overall, I think he got unutilized. I think that, they didn't script him right. And I really would love them to really bring him back. Like, I know it's weird because Daniel Craig's series is kind of rebooting the ideas of some of this stuff with Casino Royale, and it's weird because Daniel Craig feels like it's a redo of Bond and continue on from there. So I would have loved, because Blofeld returns, right? So I would have loved the Man with the Golden Gun to come back in a different form and be redone a better way, because there is potential for Francisco to me.
Right. The sad part is Christopher Lee died in 2015.
Yeah,
and he was 90-something years old when he died.
Yeah. So, but of course, they'll get a new person.
But like, it's like one of those things. Who would you get to play that kind of role? Mm-hmm. And would we do him justice this time around, or would it end up being the same stupidity?
Well, the way the movies are going now, I think stupidity is very low, because Blofeld from the newest one, just they had a good actor for it. He just didn't get utilized. He was a waste of time in that Inspector to me.
Yeah.
So that's the part that's fearing me. Like, don't do that with the Man with the Golden Gun.
Well, but even the Javier Bardem villain, who was the agent that used the cyanide capsule and his face melted off, and he was on some secret island.
Quantum.
It's like
they waste so much time trying to find this person, but not use the time to build this character up.
Well, right, because the character was dumb. His whole setup was dumb, and we'll get into that when we get to the Daniel Craig
that's a
stuff.
long ways away.
I'm not looking forward to it. However, after watching some of these and realizing how there's a lack of gadgets, it's really making me wonder what I loved so much about the gadgets.
I think gadgets come way later than we think it does.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So maybe the Daniel Craig stuff is trying to pay homage to that, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. But the Bond girls, like we mentioned earlier, they were kind of. I feel like now that they're becoming afterthought in the Roger Moore series so far, they're becoming more of an afterthought. They're not being utilized, and then these two. I think they need to focus on one, not have this two split, because that's what they've been doing since the later Sean Connerys going into Roger Moore. They get two girls, and they're trying to balance them out, but it's just not working out. Like, you guys need to just focus on one woman and focus on that and build her up. And right. But with that, I mean, that's the end of this mission. We gone through Live or Let Die, and then we go with Man with the Golden Gun. It's going to be tough to call which one is worse so far, in our opinion. I don't know. Honestly, I might have to pick Man with the Golden Gun again, over Let or Let Die, probably. In my opinion, I think even though it was bad, I was a little bit more intrigued by this than Live or Let Die. I felt like it was just more like, I don't know about you. Maybe you like Live or Let Die better.
I don't like either.
Well, if you had to choose, I guess.
If I had to choose.
Yeah. You think about that. So, but I want to thank everybody for listening to this mission.
Yeah, probably Live or Let Die.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for listening to this mission. I'm your host, Jeremy Evans. This is Travis Hanna.
What up,
and we want to thank y'all for listening to this. But, what do you think? Is Man with the Golden Gun good to you, or was it really not good to you? Let us know. You can always email us at the ingameoffice@gmail.com. And, leave your comments on Facebook, on Twitter. Come talk to us, because you can listen to the show and all our other shows on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, where we love to hear your opinions and comments of what do you think of the show and everything like that. But
even tell us that we suck.
Yeah, tell us if we're doing a good job. We love feedback so we can work on it. We're always trying to grow for each episode.
Or if you know more than we do and you think that we care to hear you talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah. Let us know. We just want to hear. We just want to hear from people. But this is not the end. This is only number 2 for Roger Moore. We're going to this third one, which is in my top 5 and your top 5 Bond film, and it's The Spy Who Loved Me. And what I believe is, at the time, it's the best Roger Moore out of all of them.
We'll see.
Yeah. I still believe that. I'm excited to go back into this, because I actually read a report that, and we'll wrap this up, is that the director that did this film said, that Roger Moore's character from these two movies were too much trying to match with Sean Connery, and he said we're going to scrap that and we're going to start from scratch. We want Roger Moore to adapt what the book is. So we want to do that and have Roger Moore act like more of that character and make it his own that way. Don't try to match Sean Connery's, because I feel that through the movies. I feel like he's trying to match Sean Connery's style, and he says no, make your own Bond out of this. What do you think Bond is? So we'll find out if The Spy Who Loved Me established that, or is he still falling into the Sean Connery's thing? And with that, we will catch y'all on our next mission.
Ba-da, ba-da.